So the games industry is crap, and I think games journalists are awful. So we're here to take their place and do their job. I don't know.
I don't think we're doing their job. I think we're just talking about a thing that we play a lot.
That's their job. So here we are.
But this is the thing, isn't it? Like in the year of our Lord 2024, I'm actually enjoying a new video game, which is not something I thought I'd ever be able to say, actually, because video games have been really bad for about a decade.
So for brand new people, Helldivers, if you haven't heard about it, it's this game. And the game is that you are playing for these fellows who call themselves Super Earth, and you jump in and you kill a load of bugs or a load of robots, and you've saved the day. Hallelujah.
And the great thing about it is it's morally uncomplicated.
Yeah. And the best bit is if you go over to Polygon or any other disgusting outlet, they're whining about it. They hate it for some reason, but they can't put their finger on why.
Morally uncomplex killing games are fascist.
Yeah. So
we learned from Starship Trooper that people instinctively associate themselves with the bugs, the monsters, the insects.
For some reason. Who knows why. The Polygon here, they went with the bug position. This is them whining that Helldivers 2 is full of fascism, and their argument as to why is because one Polygon reader wanted to put LGBT flags in the game and was told by the devs to shut up. So they are whining. That's all this is.
Gamergate 2 is going quite well then.
But that's the nice thing, to have a studio that just went, go away. Yeah. Not interested. Just want to play my game. And they're not the only ones. It turns out, if you go over and check out the Steam forums, you can see this user over here, he's been banned.
No.
He was banned for doing the opposite, which is he was in the Discord with the devs and everyone else, and someone was whining and saying, we need LGBT flags, and he responded with, shut up, not interested, and they banned him as well, which was interesting. So the situation seems to be that basically anyone who brings outside politics to their realm is banished forever and shall never return, which is a hell of a way to deal with it.
Anyone who brings the wrong politics.
Well, it's not even the wrong politics, is it? Because what they're concerned about is the internal integrity of the game universe, right?
They're just like, go away. I don't want to talk about your weird politics in any respect.
Which is something I can respect that.
So here's the best headline of all time from whatever this outlet is. LGBTQ activists accuse Helldivers 2 developers of silencing them after attempting to push propaganda into the game.
What about my free speech?
Yeah. But there's a quote from this article, which I love, which is from some user who's playing the game and just responds to one of those Steam threads saying, I do not need or want political nonsense in my game in support of Trump, Ukraine, BLM, Gaza, Israel, or LGBT. Just go away. Go away.
I mean, the question is, does Super Earth have the moral legitimacy to wipe out the bugs and the automatons? If you're not answering that question, which is obviously yes, then go away.
But this is how most people are interacting with their games, which is I'm bored, I want to collapse and have fun, go away. But then, of course, there is some kind of argument in the game, and a lot of people have come to it being like, actually, I've got the proof that the humans are bad. I side with the bugs.
Sorry for the interruption. I'm Father Calvin Robinson, and you can watch my Common Sense Crusade at 3 p.m. on Thursdays only on lotuseaters.com, where you can sign up for as little as £5 per month. Deus Vult.
No, but that's fine, because at least that's an internally consistent argument from the game's own universe. I'm prepared to have their argument. They're probably wrong, but go on.
So if when you create a game, you're creating your own universe and anything can happen and it only has to be internally consistent.
Yeah.
What if the universe that you create looks identical to our universe, but with just like slight tweaks?
Most universes do.
Right. So is there no moral... I'm sort of pushing the counter position here.
No, absolutely.
What is there any moral accountability for the type of universe that you create?
It's a great question. And many, many left-wing philosophers have said yes.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
It's a much bigger question than we're going to be able to answer on this podcast.
Fair.
I actually did an aesthetics module on my degree on this, and there's a whole suite of literature. But there are people who assert that yes, actually, the moral, the tone of the universe you create is a reflection of your own morality. But the thing is, then there's the counter argument of, okay, but then I can't actually engage in anything that's really fictitious. Because I mean, like the guy who wrote like Hannibal Lecter or something. Is this really?
Yeah, you're clearly a cannibal.
Yeah, are you actually going to go start killing people and then eating their brains, or is this just a dark fantasy that people are engaging in? But I think the most important thing is that a universe is faithful to its own aesthetic design. Mm-hmm. So if you create a universe of like space bugs and stuff like that, and then someone comes in and starts pushing like Ukraine or Israel or something, you'd be like, hang on a second, that's actually nothing to do with this. What are you doing? That's just not the question within the universe. And so what that does is breaks the suspension of disbelief, the willing suspension of disbelief that we engage in, and ruins the experience for everyone. And these people are basically killjoys. That's what they're saying.
Part of the reason I think that especially men love playing these games that are always demonized as violent video games is because it expresses a deep and potentially very good aspect of masculine energy of
killing bugs.
We want to protect those we love. We want to be brave and courageous. And
morally uncomplex violence.
And how much more morally uncomplex can you get than it's a fictional species that just wants to kill you, right?
A fictional bug species. The communists are like, no.
Yeah. Can you make the bug species more detached from reality? It probably says something about them that they see the bugs as a token of a group.
Just to go back to your point, though, I think you do hit on something about like, is there a moral question about the universe you've created? There is, and the question is about you really, rather than about the universe itself. As in, why do you enjoy this particular kind of media?
Yeah,
and if the media itself is very morally degenerate, then the reasons that you engage with it are something you should probably at least be conscious of. So if you're watching like, really degenerate porn or something,
right?
It's like, okay, but why do you seek that out? It speaks to the problem with you.
So violence-wise, I'd look inside myself and say, is the thing I'm loving here that I'm imagining other people's pain and enjoying that? And if that's really the reason I'm doing it, I'm not actually I'm not comfortable with that.
But if the reason you're doing it is to defend Super Earth from a voracious bug invasion, then
good.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think with porn, I'd actually say probably there's not a situation in which I'd be up for that as a thing to inject into my life. Even in my free time, my entertainment, I want to be cautious about the influences that are going.
But that's totally fair, because it's all about habituation, right? If you habituate yourself into something that isn't virtuous and you continue down that path, then you end up at the end of that path doing quite disgusting things or enjoying quite disgusting things, and you're no longer satisfied by the sort of mild things that you began with.
I didn't want to go down this path. I wanted to get into the game.
Go on.
So
apologies.
I think that's correct.
So here's the game. So for people who haven't seen it, there are a lot of people online who are telling you that they've done media degrees, and so I'm going to tell you about the actual story of the game.
Thank God the media literacy crowd are here.
Yeah. So I found this quite interesting, to be honest. So I'm just going to play some. Let's see these arguments, shall we? So this is not from this user. This user here has stolen this video from someone more successful. You can tell because they have she, they pronouns. Right. Let's get into it.
In Helldivers 2, what if I told you that all of the events of the game were entirely Super Earth's fault, and now they're scrambling to politically cover it up? This is absolutely not an approved message from the Ministry of Truth, so I'll have to tell you quick. Ever wondered how the Terminid bugs travel from planet to planet? Well, they don't. Super Earth spread them and put them into containment facilities to farm them for element 710, which, funny enough, if you flip upside down, spells oil. These bugs then broke out, slaughtered the residents that Super Earth themselves sent to live there, and had to be destroyed. So send in the Helldivers, call it a war, and blame the bugs to sweep it under the rug for freedom. That's also what the dissenters, aka the poor people who were probably slaughtered by bugs, left broadcasting at propaganda towers, if you break protocol to actually pay attention to them before blowing them up. So basically spread bugs everywhere, have your own citizens killed, call them dissenters and liars if they speak the truth, and then send in the Helldivers to blow everyone up and sweep it under the rug. And oh man, the automatons, the whole reason they're doing what they're doing is because...
So that's the version there.
Do we believe that?
No.
Oh.
I'm not very convinced, I'll be honest, that this means that the humans are evil. That's
the humans are putting the bugs around to harvest oil from them.
Oh, that may be true. That may be the in-game logic or whatever's going on. But the idea that makes it justifiable that the bugs are the good guys or something. This is the thing I'm dealing with that I find interesting, is that there seems to be a lot of sympathy for the bugs in a way that's sort of moral. And I'm looking at you thinking, it's a bug. You like bugs, do you?
Well, this is almost a vegan perspective, right? That an animal is to be treated as a sacred object, to be kind of coddled throughout its life. I wouldn't approve of deliberately torturing animals in your free time. To go back to
really, we've got a hard stance against torturing animals on this podcast, just so you know.
Well, but I on the other hand, solidly approve of eating animals.
Insects aren't animals, are they?
Oh, welfare, yes.
Yeah, they are animals, but
Sort of inanimate objects.
If
Balls of string.
if we've got to have sympathy for the bugs, maybe this becomes our route not to eat bugs. That can be our
possibly, but I don't want to give them that much credit.
Yeah.
I mean, the bugs are obviously dangerous.
yeah.
I don't know. Either way, I mean, this is my opinion of the bugs, which is the same of the bugs in real life, which is you got to go.
I actually don't think this is that complex. If there's something dangerous that threatens your life, the first natural law is self-defense. Exterminate.
So that's my feeling on the bugs. There is an argument for the fact that Super Earth is obviously lying to us all as we go hell diving. If nothing else, I have noticed this to be true. If the termicide works, why are the bugs still alive? I don't know if people know, but you've been applying termicide all over these planets, and there's still bugs. So they are lying
Good
to
point,
us.
actually, yeah.
But then there's some other stuff that's kind of interesting, which is Cybertron. So as mentioned, there's bugs you can go and kill, and the other faction are a bunch of automaton robot things. And there's some weird lore here, which I found interesting. So this is an encrypted message that's been decrypted, and it was apparently put out by the team who made the game. They say in this message, "We, the collective from Cyber..."
The communists exterminate them.
Understandable. Unanimously assert our independence from Super Earth. We have the right to defend our home from the brainwashed Helldivers. Our children, the automaton, will not suffer as we have under the oppression of Super Earth. It's like, okay, so the game makers put that out. So that's a message from the automatons being like, we are the innocent little oppressed, downtrodden proletariat of the galaxy. It's like, okay.
I see.
I just assume this is the person typing it, which makes me realize I don't care. Evil. Again,
great
you
thing
have
about
glowing
human
red
rights-
eyes.
No, Callum, you've got to understand. The great thing about human rights, they don't apply to animals or robots.
Wow. Yes.
Definitionally true.
What is there to say? The community seems to agree because immediately they did this. They found Cyberstan, which is apparently this planet holding a bunch of them hostage. And we're just like, right, we have to cut them off, kill them all,
Okay.
make sure they get nowhere near it. So there we are. For people who are wondering as well, there is a bit more deep lore in here. I don't know how true this is, but I'm going to play something for people who are interested, which is that there's a message from the machines.
Oh, yeah.
Which we can totally trust, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what will happen when you lose? Nothing.
Oh, well,
We will not enslave you.
and that's a promise.
We will not decimate you. We will not take your home. We will return to Cyberstan and rebuild what you destroyed. And we will leave you alone.
You believe them?
Oh, totally.
You believe the
I
murderous
was in
robots?
doubt before, but now I'm convinced.
So anyway, that's all from me. I just wanted to go into the video game and be like, so what's the evidence? And that's what the evidence is, which is there's some arguments. And the immediacy literacy crowd have jumped on it to be like, look, the bugs and the robots are the good guys. We're evil.
Yeah. But the thing
but
is,
one of them is bugs. The other one is obviously lying.
yeah, but I also don't want us to walk away from this thinking that the humans are uncomplicated and morally correct in anything or everything that they do.
No.
Because actually, they're kind of not.
But the reason you liked the game was because it was uncomplicated.
No, the reason I like the game is I like killing stuff.
Right. I guess in a way that's simple.
in a video game.
In Minecraft.
Media impacts your day-to-day life, so you will be off killing later, I presume.
Yeah, man, it prevents me. It's simulated killing.
All right.
But no, it's just a fun game. Right? It's a really fun game. But actually, the humans don't. I mean, it's a dystopia for a reason, right? And so I thought we'd just quickly explore why it's a dystopia. Because I mean, like, there's just like NBC News. Oh, this video game has reinvigorated a long-running debate about fascism and satire. It's like, okay, well, let's try and identify the fascism, shall we? Because, I mean, I'm sure everyone's aware that it's like, well, we're spreading managed democracy. Well, hang on a second. We live in a managed democracy. I don't really like managed democracy, actually. And they say, why aren't some people aware that this is satire of fascism? Because it's not. Right. And so you saw this was going around. As you see, 9.2 million views. Friendly reminder, don't be a fascist. This game is satire. This isn't fascism. What this is militarism. It's the same problem they have with Starship Troopers is, it's an army, therefore fascism. It's like, no, there have been lots of armies before fascism. There'll be lots of armies after fascism. Fascism has no monopoly on shooting stuff, actually. And so this was insufferable cringe. But I mean, we can just look at what we mean by managed democracy. So, for example, this is from the Brookings Institute, a left-wing think tank. So they're not exactly going to misrepresent their own position. They'd say, well, look, democracy at the most basic level requires the equality of all citizens and broadly inclusive citizenship. A society in which all citizens are equal but only 10% of all adults are citizens would not today count as a democracy. It's like, okay. So you can see why it's super Earth. It's the entire civilization. You can see why it's every human being. You can see why everyone in Helldivers is diverse, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough. And so they move on and say, well, look, together with equal and inclusive citizenship, the other key pillar of democratic governance is majority rule. Now you can see why it has to be managed, right? This means, first, that public decisions are made by popular majorities of citizens whose votes all count equally. And second, that democratic decision-making extends maximally to a maximally wide range of public matters. And that's why you have AI choosing your candidates. You've got to prevent that stinky, evil populism, which is not liberal democracy. I mean, this whole article is literally reflecting populism against liberal democracy. And it's like, right, that's very interesting. So you need it to be a majoritarian mandate from the electorate, but we can't have populism. So what are you serving then? That's the question.
The EU?
Exactly. It's the liberal ideal.
Because I remember when we were in the EU, running up to the Brexit referendum, one of the big complaints is that there had been many referendums on things in the EU before. Every single one of them went against the EU's rule, and then every single one of them were just rejected.
Right. You ask again and again and again until you get the answer. That one time you get the right answer, and then
which is literally what they do. Yeah.
Or you just don't even run it again. You just go, no, thanks for your input, but no. I mean, you might as well literally get an AI to run your election for you because you weren't going to listen anyway.
And there's a reason that liberal philosopher Francis Fukuyama called the EU the best instantiation of the liberal ideal, right? So he thought that liberal democracy would find its best, most perfect form in the European Union, which is hilarious when you think about it. Because that's actually, like, literally a managed democracy where the MEPs don't get to introduce legislation. They just get to rubber stamp the legislation that comes down from the Commission. Mm-hmm. So it's literally managed democracy all the way down. And it's to make sure that there can be no disenfranchisement or inequality between the citizens. So you have to have it. Because, like, if Trump's like, I'm going to ban all the Muslims, well, some of our citizens are Muslims. That's obviously disenfranchising or rendering an inequality between those. So you need a managed democracy to be able to actually have the sort of liberal ideal. And so you end up with memes like this that actually are representative of the position of a managed democracy. One day we're going to be bombing Uzbekistan over gay rights. I mean, that's
for the glory of Super Earth.
Zelensky literally just signed this off. Gay marriage in Ukraine. So really, is that what we're fighting Russia for? Is it?
Yes.
Well, it actually is. It actually is. This is the.
Are you serious? They're actually doing that in Ukraine?
They've done that. Google it.
Okay.
I'm not joking.
I'll take your word for it, but man, that's amazing. Because I'm pretty sure they had this debate in Ukrainian society a few years ago, and they went definitely not.
Right.
And now that they've joined with NATO, they're like definitely yes.
Yes, because that's what this is about. This is about the complete recognition and inclusion of every single kind of person into the same order. And so that's what managed democracy is. Because of course, if you allow the majority group to just do what it wants, then that's not going to be the result. Mm-hmm. The result is going to be the majority group gets what it wants and other groups don't get what they want. And so you need to manage that. Love it. Anyway, so this is what's going to happen. And so you'll end up with the Ministry of Truth, which is unironically what the managed democracy advocates have done. I mean, you may remember Jacinda Ardern saying, we will continue to be your single source of truth. Unless you hear it from us, it's not the truth. I mean, that's literally what you're doing in Helldivers when you're shutting down the illegitimate broadcasts. Like, if I can get to about here, right? This is the illegal broadcast, right? All that says is, wake up people, the bug menace is a super Earth construct. No, that didn't come from Jacinda Ardern, did it? Or the WEF. So no, that's an illegal broadcast and it has to be shut down.
Blow it up.
Literally. So you're not fighting for fascism. You are literally fighting for the current order that we have. The Tony Blairism sort of the blairing of the entire universe is basically what you're fighting for in Helldivers.
A lot of these,
Ironically.
like the argument that this is against the principle of free speech and therefore shouldn't be allowed, I think is weaker than the thing that you are censoring is true. And if I were in charge, I would be discouraging the things that I think are not true. So it's kind of the two different ways of looking at this question, right? Well, one is we actually want the liberal ideals, and you're just a fake liberal. And then the other perspective is the rulers should rule, but they should rule well. We want a good leader. And the thing that's particularly disgusting about this approach to leadership is claiming to be one thing and doing the opposite. Kind of an accusation of hypocrisy.
The problem that they have is that many things can be true at once, and often they are contradictory to the liberal ideal. So, the
liberal ideal is impossible anyway. I mean, the concept of majority rule doesn't work.
No. That's not.
You can have majority. You can have the things happen that the majority wants.
Yes,
but it's not because the majority wants.
Sure, but they would argue that it's they could argue that in a representative democracy. I mean, Trump is a good example of this. Actually, the majority, the Democratic electorate in America voted for the giant orange ego, and that's what they get. And the managers of democracy are like, well, we can't work with this, and so it's been nonstop, essentially a cold civil war in America ever since Trump got elected. And so there can be majority rule. That absolutely can happen, but it will be through a representative who represents the interests of the majority.
But how much power did Trump have?
Well, that's the problem, because there was a managerial class that was stonewalling at every turn. But they don't have to exist. It doesn't have to be that there is a managerial class that hates their own civilization. It's just that, post-Cold War, that's exactly all that we have, because they're the people who won the Cold War, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd argue populism is an effective political strategy in which you gain power by appealing to the majority.
Sure.
And then once you have power, it's entirely your choice whether or not you actually implement the things that you said you were going to do.
Which is self-evident, which is why politicians are terrible.
Yeah, but you could have, and this is what I would always say is the hope, the great hope we should all have politically, is that somebody gets power and is actually a good, like a decent person individually, and therefore wants to do good for the majority.
Really, all it comes down to is, will these people serve your interests? And I mean, Trump seemed to serve the interests of the average American. Like, he seemed to be doing, when he did things, the right thing. So, okay, and Joe Biden seems to be against the interests of the average American directly, consciously, openly, vocally. So, I mean, it's fairly easy.
Yeah, I'd want to analyze the behavior of the US government over the period that Trump was in charge, rather than his actions within the system.
Yeah.
And in practice.
Oh, yeah. Like, you can see that there's a power structure within the United States that is openly hostile to Trump and has done everything they can to stop him. But like I say, it doesn't have to be that way. It just is.
Do you think Trump could have been more effective at implementing his...
I think Trump wasn't a politician.
Yeah, interesting.
So I think he went in naively, thinking, well, I'm the president now. They're going to be like, okay, Mr. President, I guess we'll do
surely being president is the same as being CEO of a...
Yeah, exactly. That's, I think, what he thought, yeah. And I guess we'll see in 2024 what happens with that.
Yeah.
If you appreciated that episode from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Contemplation series, this episode on how politicians try to manipulate you. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow it on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.